related to superorganisms and the flattening of the hierarchical schema. When is it more intelligent to have a hierarchy? Because that allows you to delegate responsibilities. It allows you to basically build up higher order collective concerted centralized power structures and response patterns instead of having this randomized distribution that maybe
Gives direction to the whole system.
yeah, absolutely. But so what of it then? I mean, when is it more effective to be in a hierarchy, and when is it more effective to be, in that flat land of just distributed movement?
It's a really important question, for sure. Um, the thing is that hierarchies are terrible. They become bottlenecks. They're very terrible at processing large amounts of information. The more that the network is a sensory organism, and it's sensing what reality is. We got all these human beings everywhere, and there's people in Kenya, and there's people here, and we're all communicating about what's going on in the world, what's the state, what's happening with CO2 in the atmosphere, whatever we're trying to sense. All that information has to flow upward to a hierarchy. It can be overwhelming. It can be impossible for the hierarchy to understand it. So that's just one of many examples. And this is one reason nature often prefers flatter hierarchies. They bottom up, where everybody has a rule that they use, and they create this emergent phenomena, but there's nothing at the top that's saying all of you behave this way, because it's able to handle complexity much, much better.
I'm fascinated by this. I'm noticing that in the natural cycles of historical development, there are emergences of governments, and then there are destructions of governments where the people revolt and nobody feels satisfied or happy being embedded within power structures that don't operate in ways that validate them as people, or that do the basic necessary things that it needs to do in order to be stabilized. But it's leaving me with this question about stabilization of larger power structures and hierarchy versus the deconstruction of those power structures, and a question about how it is that we can optimize the relationship between the two. Because even though, maybe what you would want to say is that, well, we don't want things to get deconstructed because there's, a revolution, rebellion, it's terrifying, it's a huge systemic jump. But maybe that's just what happens when you have a system that's not capable of flexibly interacting with the flow of events that really happen. Because we have government projects that are put together to do a certain function, and then the function is carried out, in a mediocre way. But then at some point along the way, the project is no longer important. But then you've got a bunch of people that are in this group that's been doing some project, and then you ask them, how much money do you need this year? And they're going to say the maximum amount of money, because why would you say anything less than the maximum amount of money?
Right.
And so there's this way of pulling money to these projects that are now defunct, need to be deconstructed, and if they were deconstructed, then that money could be released, so that instead of having it just get caught up somewhere, congested in the system, it could be something that could go out and feed and facilitate valuable processes that really do support ongoing progressive growth. So I think that's maybe really the question, is how it is that we can develop a system that's able to reflexively and continuously maintain the progressive front, where it's deconstructing things that no longer have any value to the system, and it's constructing things experimentally, scientifically devising meaningful ways of optimizing our programs so that they actually do the things that they're supposed to do